Our scripture reading this morning comes from the book of Exodus. We'll be reading from the 3rd chapter, verses 1 through 15. Exodus 3, 1 through 15. Join me in hearing the words of scripture. Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, "I must turn aside and look at this great sight, and see why the bush is not burned up." When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called him out of the bush, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." He said further, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. Then the Lord said, "I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" He said, "I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain." But Moses said to God, "If I come to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your ancestors has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What is his name?' what shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." He said further, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'I am has sent me to you.'" God also said to Moses, "Thus you shall say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this my title for all generations." Sometimes it's hard to make sense out of the world. Sometimes it's hard to even know what you think about something, what you believe about something. And sometimes it's hard to hear what we need to hear. So today I'm doing something a little bit different for the sermon. Today, instead of preaching, I am praying. I'm going to be offering a prayer to my daughters. And I want to invite you throughout this week at some point to write your own prayer for someone that you love deeply. I'm going to base it off of the scripture that we've just read, that of God speaking to Moses at the burning bush. But find a scripture that's important to you and write a prayer, a letter of what you desire for someone, based on a scripture, based on something that allows you to get out from the depths of who you are, to pour it out, to pray it out, so that God can hear it, so that you can say it, and if you want to give it to someone, so that they can receive it. So now I invite you to hear my prayer. And I encourage you to take this idea and practice it yourself. To my beautiful daughters, Caden and Kendall, You are the light of my world. My love for you goes beyond and cannot be captured by any word or any symbol. Your mere presence has led me to a new understanding of the one called I Am. I am, the name of the divine, the source of our being, the giver of our breath. I am. My prayer for you too is that you will know the deep love of I Am, that you will be attuned to I Am's presence in every aspect of life. In just the name, we learn that the idea of a sacred and profane world, a binary world of black and white, good and evil, is a lie. I Am is in all things, in all of nature, in every moment, even in you. I pray that you discover the spark of the divine that you carry within yourself. Therefore, I pray that you learn to approach this world, the people within it, and even yourself with the reverence that Moses approached that burning bush. God can and will appear in any moment and in any place because God is already present. Caden and Kendall, I pray this for you, but I know it will be difficult. You both were born into a world on fire. Caden, you arrived a day after a white supremacist walked into a South Carolina church and murdered 8 people because of a world that taught him to hate black skin. Days after your first birthday, you and I traveled down to the Stonewall Inn to pay homage to the 49 murdered in a Florida nightclub because of a world who taught to hate because of who someone simply loved. Kendall, you came into this world amidst a pandemic, unlike the world had seen in a century. And even with the 180,000 people who have died, there are those who still don't take it seriously. There are those whose lives have been deemed expendable, and the chasm between the haves and the have-nots has been forged even further apart. You're also coming into a world and a country splitting at the seams, where part of this world is trying to get acknowledgement that their lives matter, and another segment of this world that can't understand that, can't acknowledge it, or simply doesn't want to. Where hoods of secrecy have come off, where guns have been drawn, and what was once deemed shameful or wrong and was kept hidden is perpetuated where all can see. Caden, Kendall, my prayer for you is that you know the deep love of the I Am, and know that the I Am is a Lord of liberation, a Lord of love, a Lord of hope, a Lord of peace, and a Lord of justice. The I Am observes the misery, hears the cries, and knows the suffering of God's own. Be confident that in God's own time there will be deliverance, but know that God will be calling on you for help. See, throughout the holy story, God uses us as hands and feet to rebuild God's beloved community of creation. I pray that you're able to respond to this call in the way of Moses with a simple, "Here I am," when that call comes. I pray that you use the talents and the gifts that each of you have been blessed with to build your portion of the beloved community. Now, this won't be easy. As women and women of color, you will face a world that I, as a white man, didn't have to face. You will experience challenges and biases based solely on how God has designed you. And you will experience hurts and disappointments from people you admire, look up to, and even love. And that breaks my heart. But it also scares me. This world we find ourselves in scares me. But it's okay to be scared. The great Moses was scared. I pray, though, that you don't allow this fear to paralyze you. Remember, God will always be with you, always be around you, be within you. So I pray that you stand up for what's right. Live out God's loving justice. Love all people indiscriminately and find and experience God in the places and spaces and people this world says is impossible and often has abandoned. Realize you both are privileged You're privileged to be born out of love and into love. You have a family that looks on you both as answers to prayer. You have family in the spiritual realm who, even though they may not be physically present, their love for you can be experienced if you allow yourself to feel it. This is God's love, and you can't escape it. So as you grow into the women God has designed you to be, celebrate, have fun, be passionate, be brave, define yourself on you and God's own terms, no one else's. Take risks, fail, fall, but dust yourself off and get back up. Love deeply, love radically, and approach the world with reverence, knowing that God is in all things. And know that I am with you. And know that I will always be with you. Love, Dad.